Hello and welcome to another edition of Power the Pen. I am LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group as well as the Bradford Group Consulting, and I am so excited to be with you again this Sunday as we explore another author and her book. And today we have none other than Mary Ellen Ciganovich, who is going to come, and we're going to dig into her latest release called Truth Lives. And for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, what Power of the Pen is designed to do, it's a platform to elevate the voices of women, the written and spoken word. And these are books written by women, but they're also books that may have been written by men, but have an impact on women. And so we're going to have a conversation, explore what motivated Mary Ellen in writing this book. How can we be influenced, impacted, improved by this book, especially now because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think this topic and this book and this guest is very timely. So let me bring Mary Ellen up right now. How's it going, Mary Ellen?
Hi, LaWanna. Thank you so much for having me. Hello to everybody watching and listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. And Mary Ellen, I just want to tell the audience a little bit about you for those that may not know you. Mary Ellen has been on this platform a couple times. She is an author of multiple books. Truth Lives is, I would say, the springboard from her book called Truth, Taking Responsibility, Unleashing True Healing. And Mary Ellen is on a mission to help us to really understand that there are inherent universal God truths that are pretty much absolute in how we choose to live and respond to life. And they're there to be those guideposts for us and to tap into our true selves, right? Not the self that's behind the mask or the self that we want the world to see, but who we were divinely intended to be. She's also a former educator. She taught middle school. She's a mother. She's a wife, and she wears so many hats. This woman is amazing. She's a podcast host. There we go. She is a podcast host, and where she speaks on Truth Lives, and she's also part of Conversations Media Group, where she partners with Cyrus Webb in helping to, again, expand the message of taking responsibility unleashes true healing, the truths of the day, all of these amazing, rich messages that we're going to dig into right now. So again, welcome.
Well, thank you. I am so blessed and so humbled by that wonderful introduction. Thank you.
Well, Mary Ellen, let's kind of just go back a little bit, because you have a very interesting journey, and you've been very open to share about your upbringing. You classified it as dysfunctional, which all of us can kind of relate to. We have a little bit of dysfunction in our families.
Yeah.
But you also have experience of not only being a working mother, but you found yourself soon divorced. You've been now remarried to a wonderful man for many, many years, but you also have your own physical battles, your health battles that you're dealing with, and I think you're living triumphantly in spite of. And so, what was it? At what point in your journey did you realize there's a message that I need to get out? And it started first with your book, Truth, Taking Responsibility Unleashes True Healing. And then it expanded into this latest compilation of Truth Lives.
Let's see. Well, when God speaks to all of us all the time. The problem is a lot of us don't hear him because we're speaking too much, or we're keeping ourselves too busy, or we're watching TV or news media or whatever. And when you're quiet with yourself, you can hear what God's saying to you. And God started giving me these truths, like you're never upset for the reason you think. You're always only upset with yourself, what you focus on. And he kept telling me these little vignettes that I put into a book a long time ago called Healing Words, Life Lessons to Inspire. And these were messages on everything from awareness to love, to fear, to faith, unconditional love, teaching people to get out of expectations, motives, and judgments. So I put that and I said, okay. And then in order to get that book out, I went into the truths of the day. And these aren't, people misuse the word truth in our society. When people usually say the word truth, they're talking about a fact or an opinion. The truths that I write about, the truths that I attempt to give to people so they can hear them, so they can change their thinking, so they can live a peaceful, powerful life, are truths that will never change. They are God-given truths. They are based on Christian principles. Yes, I am Christian. I was raised in the Catholic Church, and then I was Methodist. I've been through a few churches. And then I began to study spirituality, although the good side of spirituality, there is a dark side, at the Atlanta Awareness Center. And that's where I really woke up to myself. And when I became aware of what my thoughts were going through my head, how I was creating the life that I didn't want instead of the life that I did want, that's when I began to say, wow, these need to get out to people. I need to do these. And I started in my middle school classrooms with a Vitamind, and that was a vitamin for your mind. And I would put it on the board, and the kids just wouldn't write it down. We would talk about it. I said, what do you think this means? And they could agree or disagree. It didn't matter. I just wanted to get their thought processes going. So through all this journey came, which is now actually my third book, Truth Lives, and I have 2 more to go in this series that will make a set of 3 books to give people a truth again for an entire year.
That's amazing. And like you said, when we as people allow ourselves to just be quiet, silence ourselves from the noise, the ash and trash that's out there, it's amazing what we can hear. And knowing and trusting, that still small voice, that the more we become in tune, the louder that voice becomes, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I didn't want to write these at first. I mean, God was shouting them at me. And I was like, no. I mean, look at me. I got bright blonde, glow in the dark hair, long fingernails. Nobody is going to listen to them coming from me. And God goes, why do you think you went through everything in your life? And I'm like, you could have told me. I was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 6 and multiple sclerosis in 1986, over 34 years ago. And these trials and tribulations come into your life so that you can learn to embrace them with love and go forward learning about yourself. And you always have to come from love.
I want to sit there for a second, and in speaking about mental health awareness. And, it's really important that as we talk about mental health, that we get rid of the stigma around it and the biases. And we should be as comfortable talking about mental health as we do about our physical health. What we're eating today, what things are we feeding our mind, right? To help enrich our lived experience. And we know there's a lot of darkness in the world. And I want to just sit in suicide for a second. We're hearing that with the second pandemic, if you will, is that mental health crisis. And suicide is on the rise in all age groups. We just recently lost Naomi Judd to suicide, who was a longtime advocate for mental wealth, mental wealth and mental wellness. And I want to ask you this question. And you mentioned your life's challenges. And for many people, they would say, that's it. I just can't, life isn't worth living anymore. But there was something in you that said, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to be defined by this, by, the limitations that my body's having at this moment. What tools do you think your book can provide to someone who is in that dark space, who may have received that diagnosis that they didn't want to hear, or or maybe found themselves, abandoned, and now they're alone. Now they're that single mom. How can they use this book to help them start to see the light, to start living and embracing that love walk that you're talking about?
Well, the most powerful tools that any of my books will give to you is hope and awareness of yourself. How, no matter what you're going through, and mental health is something that has been a struggle for me all my life, because at the age of 6, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. Now, that was 1958 because I was born in 52. And back in 1958, there were blue laws which are laws that aren't followed, that you couldn't get married or couldn't have kids. So my mother used to tell me all the time, you can't get married, you can't have kids. This is horrible. What you have, don't tell anybody. At least you don't look like it. What am I supposed to look like? I don't know. I know what she was talking about. So I always felt like I had this little black spot on me that I had to overcome. And in going through that, and I went to college, I joined a sorority, and my sorority sisters were like, well, so what? You're fine. And I was like, what do you mean I'm fine? So any of my books, you can open to any page and you can learn something about yourself to give you hope to continue through any trial or tribulation that you're going through. And there's also information there, if you're going through a really dark spot, connect with me. Allow me to assist you through that. I will be more than happy to help anyone, because I've been there. I've been there several times, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like to go, what's the point? Why do I do all this hard work? And there are still times in my life now I'm like, and God keeps talking to me and keeps talking to me. And you have to connect with that higher power. You have to continue to have hope. Hope is such a fragile, delicate, yet beautiful, beautiful flower that we have to give each other.
I love the fact that, to those that are listening, we're here with Mary Ellen Ciganovich talking about her book, Truth Lives. And as an author, she's coming from a place of relevance and lived experience. Mm-hmm. And through her relationship with God, she was allowed to be this vessel, to give us a path to navigate and find our hope in our life's journey. And I want to encourage any of you that are watching that feel like, you just don't understand LaWanna and Mary Ellen. You don't know what I'm going through. Mm. Well, both of us have received not the most favorable diagnosis. As she mentioned, epilepsy and MS. With me, I'm still battling the cancer diagnosis. So we get the bad news. Mm. We get what it's like to be divorced. And there's so much more. But being able to find the hope and the joy in the living is being able to embrace the gift that God has really given us, which is life, right? I want to read something from your book. It's actually how you open it up. And I when I read it, I smiled because I thought, oh, she's starting off very challenging right now. You said, are you asleep or awake? All of us think we are awake. All of us think we sleep only at night. I propose a theory many people, if not most people, live their life asleep. They are asleep to truth about themselves, yet they can see it so clearly in other people. They struggle through life going from one problem to the next as they tell themselves, I can't help it, or it's not my fault, they made me do it. I mean, right there, I thought, okay, this could be a book in of itself. Yeah. Right. It's so easy to blame. It's so easy to not take accountability and responsibility. What do you want to say to someone who has repressed something that they went through, maybe from childhood? It's buried so deep they don't know it's there, but it's causing them to react and respond in a way that's not healthy for them, but they don't really understand why. They may be so angry or always sad or experiencing depression or anxiety, but it has deep roots from childhood.
Well, they need to go back to that experience, okay? And they need to almost see it, well, not almost, but see it happening all over again in their mind. Okay. Just see it happening and bring up those yuck feelings. Go to a bed and take a pillow and keep hitting the bed. Why did you do this? Go to a punching bag, punch a punching bag, but sit with those horrible feelings that made you feel so worthless and so undervalued. And so, I know when I was 8 years old, my mom told me that, she wanted to abort me when she was carrying me. And, why was I around? Why was I sticking up for daddy? And it was just so hateful the way she told me. And those feelings I had to work with, and I had to get those feelings out and understand that my mother was coming from a place of fear. That was not a loving response. So in forgiving, and I didn't even have to forgive her, I had to forgive myself for believing what she said, for thinking that what she was saying was that I was worthless. And that's not true. Everybody is worthy. Everybody is valued. I did my miracle moment yesterday was about being worthwhile and being valued. And it's so important. I mean, like I said, I've struggled with mental health all my life. And when I went to college, I finally ended up going to a psychiatrist at the University of Georgia. And his therapy for me was to make me a part of the Me Too movement. And nevertheless, he raped me. And I went back and I said, I can't go back to him. I don't want to go back to him. And nobody would believe me because he was this top ranked psychiatrist at the University of Georgia, and nobody would believe me. So they pushed me back, and I didn't want to go back. So I did try suicide. And I was fortunate because I survived. I went to a darkened place. I'll never forget it. I went to a dark, cold place. And then I remember seeing that bright white light doorway. And then I remember floating up to it. And I remember the Christ-like figure coming to the doorway. And all he said was, or the energy force said, was what I had done was very wrong. And I had a lot of good to do yet. And then there was a door slamming, and I was in ICU, and I'd been in a coma for 3 days. And I was like, whoa. And of course, in that time, it was like 1973, 74. So at that time, I thought I'd had a dream until I realized later on what had happened to me and that I was brought back for this greater purpose. And that I am now fulfilling and creating my greater purpose. And see, when I went through that experience, I didn't have a book I could turn to and open up to get some hope. I didn't have anyone that I could call on the phone and say, I couldn't call my mom, or my dad was out of town. My mom wouldn't have listened to me. And the guy I was engaged to was like, oh, you got to be making that up. Why would somebody make something like that up? So when someone is crying out to you, hey, this happened to me, be there for them. If for nothing else, just to listen to them. And if you have to go with them to the next appointment to make sure anything incorrect doesn't happen, then go with them. But please don't discount what they say, because nobody's, so many people have told me, oh, you don't have epilepsy and MS. You don't look like it. I would have to be really psycho to say things like that and not have it. I mean, and it hurts. It really does hurt sometimes that you don't get the support from other people. That's why the group like Celebrate You, Women Embracing Wellness, has given me so much support and so much strength, and I appreciate that.
Well, we definitely appreciate having you on, and I just appreciate your transparency in sharing your story, and we just encourage everyone we all have a voice, and our stories do matter. So whether it's a written word or a spoken word, you never know who might be in earshot, or or just from, opening up the pages of a book that
Mhm.
can hear the words of encouragement to help them make it through another day.
Mhm.
And I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
You mentioned here when you're talking about living your authentic life.
Mhm.
And when I was reading Truth Lives, I sat in that for quite a while because I thought when we are growing up, right, with our parents all have dreams for us. And
Mhm.
so they start impressing those dreams on us,
Right.
what they think we should be, what they think we
Oh
should
yeah.
do. And when and how did you discover, wait a minute, this isn't really me. I need to find out who truly is Mary Ellen, not what mom said, not my life experiences, but who am I? Because you said here, in truth, you are all light beings in a physical body. Your
Mhm.
true self exists whether you acknowledge it or not. My hope is that all of you will bring your life forward as you stop burying your light under fears and negative societal teachings.
Mhm. Well, our societal teachings do hold us back. We're taught so many incorrect things. We're taught to worry. We're taught to be stressed out. We're taught to do all these incorrect things. And, I was brought up, my mom always said, you will go to college and you will be a teacher. Okay. And I always wanted to be a buyer for Riches. And I modeled for Riches. And Mr. Rich, who created the original Riches store, told me that he'd hire me. And my mom just nixed it. Totally, you have to go to college. If you don't go to college, then you get out on your own. Well, I didn't have any money. And, I figured, well, going to college and having her pay for it for 4 years gave me at least 4 years to figure out what I was going to do. No, I was just lucky that when I did teach, I really did enjoy it. And I really enjoyed teaching middle school because I'm not really a first, second, third grade person with all the little kids coming to you about, I want my mommy. I like to have a middle schooler that I can see the light going on in their eyes. I can see their mind opening up. And I'm not going to teach them my opinions. I want them to think. I want them to think for their own. I want them to think outside the box as if there is no box at all. And that is what our society needs to do with all young people today. Allow them to think, allow them to express their opinion. You can always express your opinion in a positive way. You don't have to yell at somebody, and you don't always have to agree. That's okay. And we can all still be kind and enthusiastic and compassionate to each other. It's so very important. And in being a teacher, which led me to the Vitamines, which led me to the Truth of the Day, it was all a journey to bring me to the point where I am now, which is my true authentic self. Was interesting.
I love that story, and I think when we all pause and look back on our lives, we can see, the connections, right? We may not understand while we're going through, but if we pause and look back, it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Even unfortunately, the bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's lessons learned that we can.
Mm-hmm.
You think about individuals who I have a friend who she decided to go into medicine, but she chose specifically uh, the female health.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked her why, it was because she lost her mother to uterine cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know what's going to inspire you to your ultimate calling, your ultimate purpose
Mm-hmm.
in life. And I think we have many, depending on where we are and how we're evolving in our cycle of
Mm-hmm.
life. I want to ask you something else with the book here. And I think this is a very important part. And it may be very difficult for us to do, especially in so much negativity when we focus on the negative. You said live life with an open heart, and that our heart is our seat of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take us through that and what you mean by living life with an open heart?
Okay. So many people have been brought up and are taught that, well, your brain controls everything. Your thoughts come from your brain and your brain is, well, Christ says in the Bible 33 times, he says, take no thought. Now, what gets us into trouble all the time? this thought about, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. All these thoughts going in. Your thoughts have a belief, and a belief always has a doubt. But if you come with your knowings, and I'm pointing to my gut, my core, just right below my heart, if you come from your knowings, your connection with your higher power, keeping that open heart, and you come from love. See, there are only two places people can come from. Either love, which is a higher plane, or fear. Okay? And if somebody's yelling or screaming at you, they're coming to you from fear, down here. Well, if you come back at them yelling and screaming, okay, it's like that. But if you come at that person that's yelling and screaming, and you come from love saying, hey, I understand, then that raises their vibration and it just kind of calms things down. Love always breaks fear. Fear creates more fear, and love and fear create healing and peace and everything positive and everything good in the world.
So how can someone get from that fear zone into the love zone?
Well, step back. I gave you an example that happened with my daughter. Okay, I was in my office I was a single parent, and she came home from high school. She was always a really well-mannered kid, right? And well, she had to be. She had me as a mother. Okay, really. So she stopped by my office, went into her bedroom, and just slammed the door. And I'm like, whoa. And I'm sitting at my desk, and I'm thinking, the first thought that came to my mind was to respond and not react. Because when you respond, you're coming from love. I knew what she had just done was fear. Okay. So I walked into her room and I looked at her and I said, what fear is running you? And she was like, they want me to apply for college at my school and I can't get into college and I'll never get into college and daddy's going to be upset and you're going to be disappointed. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait. If you don't want to go to college, don't go to college. Well, daddy will be upset. I don't care about your dad. You talk to him. You know, you live your life for you. I didn't want to do to her what my mother had done to me. Now, I could have taking that same scenario, I could have gone into her room and gone from a fear level myself and said, we don't slam doors in this house. What do you mean walking by here, stomping your feet, slamming your door? We would never have gotten anywhere but into a bigger argument. The way I handled it, she ended up applying for college. She got into Georgia State. She went to med school. She's now a physician's assistant. She's been Antarctica, New Zealand, practicing medicine. She's right now in Idaho on her way to move to Montana. So she's had a very, very successful career. And it all goes back to that one moment when I handled the situation by responding out of love rather than reacting out of fear.
Wow, that's powerful. Well, Mary Ellen, can you believe it? We're almost out of time. I'm going to take myself down because I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit to the audience, tell them how they can connect with you and your services. And definitely you can get Truth Lives on Amazon.com along with her other books as well. Okay.
Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Ciganovich, which you just heard a great interview with my dear friend LaWanna Bradford. I am so excited about teaching you and sharing you these messages of truth, which are messages of love and messages of hope, so that we can teach each other and uplift each other and go on to make our world such a much better, powerful, peaceful place. And what if we all came from love? What if we had no motives, no judgments, no expectations? And what, in being prejudiced against someone, you're being prejudiced against yourself. Why would you do that? Always come from love. Always respond, don't react. You can connect with me through askmaryellen.com. That's ASK, maryellen.com. And you can go to my Miracles with Mary Ellen podcast or Mary Ellen's Miracle Moments, all kinds of things on my website at askmaryellen.com. And I have blessings and love and gratitude for all of you out there. Have a wonderful life and spread love. And respond, don't react.
Thank you so much, Mary Ellen. So to our listening audience, you heard it here, Mary Ellen Ciganovich with her amazing book, Truth Lives. She has other books. Check out all of them. They are truly a blessing. I know the one book that I often talk about, which is Truth, Taking Responsibility, Unleashes True Healing. As I've shared with Mary Ellen before, I have my Bible and I have Truth, take Truth. And it's just been a blessing to me. And I appreciate that you were just willing to allow yourself to be open, as you mentioned, having that open heart so that you could be used divinely by God to inspire, enrich, and give hope to so many around the world when hope is truly, truly needed at this point in time. And I encourage you to reach out to her on askmaryellen.com. Check out her podcast, Miracles with Mary Ellen. Follow her on Facebook, all things social media. You won't regret the time. And she also mentioned during our show that if you need some assistance, if you need someone to help you through that dark space,
Call me.
please, please, please reach out. She understands where you are, and what sometimes you need is just another ear, a hand letting you know that you're not alone and that it's okay, and just stay in the moment. And I love what you said, Mary Ellen, is embracing our feelings.
Yep.
Right? Just
Yep.
the worst thing is to pretend like they're not there.
Yeah.
But just embrace our feelings. Mary Ellen, do you have anything upcoming? I know you mentioned that you have another book in the series.
Yes, I have 2 more in the series of Truth Lives that I have titles for, and I'm going to put together. I have them outlined, but since I had pneumonia for about 6 weeks, they haven't gotten onto the computer yet. So I think I will probably start on Monday with the second one. It won't take me long, but they'll be out there.
Well, congratulations on all that you're doing with your writing, and I just enjoy all that you're doing within the community, within the world. And one of the things I was thinking about, Mary Ellen, is we definitely don't like the fact that we're still in this pandemic state, but I think about unique voices like yours, and because of the pandemic, going from the live environments to the virtual platform has enabled you to just reach tens of thousands of people around the world in different communities and countries. And just within our Celebrate You community, over 20 countries are within the sound of your voice. So I just think it's pretty powerful and pretty profound how God is weaving and getting the messages of truth out there for all of us to be reminded that there is a better way, right? And it's the love way, not the fear way.
Yeah, God is trying to wake everyone up to be aware of themselves so they can quit blaming everyone else. Always look inside yourself first, no matter the diagnosis or any kind of issue. You always turn it back into yourself and say, how can I embrace this with love? What do I need to learn from this? And you learn it and let go.
Love it. Love it. Well, Mary Ellen, thank you so very much for joining me. I can't wait to have you back when you release your other 2 books. And to our listening audience, thank you for joining us for another edition of Power the Pen. We encourage you to tap into your voice, be bold, be expressive. As Mary Ellen said, walk in love, not in fear. And don't be afraid to share your story. You never know who needs to hear your message of hope and encouragement. You can make a difference. You do matter. Until next time, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
you.